Welcome to the Jungian Drift. We invite you to join us as we explore contemporary developments in Jungian thought in the San Francisco Bay Area and beyond.
My name's Claire Kohne. I'm an LPCC here in the Bay Area. I got involved with the Institute at first by volunteering at the library here, and I'm applying for training this winter. It's a big decision, and I have some colleagues who are considering analytic training as well in other parts of the country, so I thought it might be helpful to talk to some people who are currently in training to get some insight about what analytic training might be like, what goes on in a decision like this, and how it's different than other educational experiences. Here with me are two current candidates at the Institute who have generously offered to give us a glimpse of their process. I'll talk first with Megan Ellis Van Vlack. She's an LMFT and LPCC based in Oakland, California. She works with adults, adolescents, children, and parents, and she's a registered sand play therapist. Megan works from a Jungian and psychoanalytic orientation and is a first-year candidate at the San Francisco Jung Institute. Thanks, Megan.
I'm really happy to be here today. Yeah, I'm really interested in this topic as well, since I was in your shoes last winter when I was applying to become a candidate here.
At what point in your career did you start to consider formal training in Jungian analysis?
For me, becoming an analyst was the end goal from the start.
Okay.
So my origin story, when I was 12 years old, I was having a conversation with my mom, who had returned to grad school to become a school psychologist. She was reading a lot at the time. We would talk about dreams, and I told her that I wanted to become a therapist when I grew up, but a therapist who only worked with dreams. And much to my disappointment at the time, she told me that existed, and it was a Jungian analyst, and that this guy, Carl Jung, had already discovered this way of being. But I was really enamored with the idea. Starting at that age, started reading some of Jung when I was in high school. Yeah, set out on this path until around the time when I finished college. I was looking into what it would take to go to grad school, and I wanted to begin fresh out of college. And that was when I started to get a little bit more experience in the field. I was working as a crisis counselor, and I realized then I wasn't really ready, to bite all of this off. So I took a detour. I worked in writing and communications for a few years, and then eventually, around my Saturn return, as my analyst has pointed out to me, the urge to come back to this, it just became louder and louder. And so then I went into grad school to become a therapist and then an analyst. But yeah, getting here was the goal from the start.
This has been your North Star.
Yeah. And so then it's been really surreal to get here after having imagined it for so long.
Wow, congratulations.
Oh,
That's really huge.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and really interesting to actually be experiencing the training, what has maybe fit within the fantasy, that I had envisioned, and also what has surprised me, what's been different.
Would you talk a little bit about that? What's been surprising?
Yeah, I think one thing is once I actually got accepted into training and it was going to be time to start, I had just a lot of imposter syndrome set in. Just, oh my gosh, do I actually know enough to be a Jungian? Am I going to fit in? I'd finally reached this goal. I finally got here. And then found myself wondering what it's going to be like to enter into this community and to actually put money where my mouth is. And try to learn to integrate this theory into how I work.
So even you had started reading Jung back in high school and you still didn't quite feel ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I was really validated to find that isn't a unique experience. I heard that echoed from candidates who were already in the program and from my own, members of my own cohort who are beginning to. And these are people who are all at different levels of experience in their career as well. So that was really, really validating to find out that that's not a unusual experience at all. I think too that I was really delighted to find that there were a lot more people that worked from a more grounded perspective. Maybe this kind of ideal Jungian that I had in mind, who can speak to the complexity of the theory and, has, myths and legends and symbols in mind and knows all about these archetypes, that actually in this learning community, everybody's learning and approaching this information from different places. And there isn't as much pressure as maybe I'd worried there would be to already be, immersed in that language. Yeah.
Can I ask what you meant by grounded?
Yeah, maybe a more kind of down-to-earth culture than I had expected there to be. When I was starting to feel the panic of beginning, I actually found that people had their feet more solidly on the ground than I had thought that I would come across. That I didn't need to, memorize the entire tarot and Arthurian legends and, the Greek myths to get here and to belong. I had done my associateship at a clinic that focused in psychoanalytic training. And so I have experience in both worlds now. I think some of the differences is I do find Jungian analysis to be more interdisciplinary and so to integrate a lot of different modalities. There's a way of applying a Jungian way of thinking to other therapy modalities, but also there's a real companioning with the client or the analysand and really integrating what they're bringing to the work. And so if I have a client who's, say, really interested in anime, then we can work with that on a symbolic level. I think modern psychoanalysis is moving in that direction, but it's not as baked into the theory already as I think that it is in Jungian analysis.
There's maybe a different kind of listening. A more spacious listening for what the client is working with.
Yeah, and I think, to even go back to the founder, Jung was a deeply curious person. That's something that comes across in his writing. It's something I have always liked about Jung. And I think that that's still a big part of the way Jungians operate today, is that there is this real deep curiosity about how a person's mind works, their lived experience, their likes, dislikes, their dreams. Yeah.
So it sounds like you came in already familiar with Jungian thinking and listening. You're only in your first year, but I wonder if already just the training experience has changed how you are with your clients?
Yeah, I would say that it has. I've started to notice more subtle differences at this point in my training. I would say that I feel more liberated to work creatively, and that's something that I've really enjoyed, especially integrating clients' imagination into the work that we're doing. Even when we don't have a dream to unpack, we can create a dream together in the room, and that, can be a rich experience in and of itself. So there's been more room that I've experienced. I feel like a capacity that's expanding for me. And at the same time, it's just the beginning. So I don't know how this is going to continue to evolve for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you have any advice for anyone considering training?
It's such an individual journey. I would say that there's no right or wrong way to come to this decision. There's people who have been thinking, like myself, who have been thinking about this for a long time. There's also people who, have a phenomenon or a synchronicity come to them in their life that has started to lead them down this path. I think it's important to get to know the community. One of my mentors said that one thing that helped him come to this decision was he found himself spending more and more time with other Jungians. That's one good way to know if this might be right for you.
Are these your people?
Yeah. Are these your people? And that I like that because there's a freedom in that. There's no one way to be a Jungian, but are you finding your place, within this community? Does this feel like a good place to be?
Well, I'm glad that you found your people, and thank you so much for taking the time today.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Claire. And good luck in your application.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Elaina Barulic is a marriage and family therapist in private practice in Alameda and online, where she sees adult clients. Her initial training was in somatic psychology, and she brings some of that into her practice, working creatively with psychological symptoms that show up in the body as well as the mind and emotions. She's a fourth-year candidate at the San Francisco Jung Institute. Welcome, Elaina.
Thank you.
So how familiar were you with Jung when you decided to seek analytic training?
I had been in analysis for probably 6 years at that point. And I discovered Jung. I had moved out here from Florida to San Francisco, and I found a book written by a Jungian analyst in like a free book bin. And I read it, and at the time I had graduated from college. I wasn't sure what to do next. I was a little lost, and something about that book kind of lit me up and made me think, oh, there's maybe a different way to think about myself and what I want. So I went online and looked for a Jungian analyst and discovered the Institute in San Francisco, and then I started analysis. So,
were you a therapist already?
I was not, no. Yeah. So Jungian analysis it took a few years, but it made me want to become a therapist.
Wow.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah.
So you were, from the get, this was your goal, to be here?
Well, certainly by the time I decided to become a therapist, I had it in mind that the goal was to be an analyst, even though I studied somatic psychology, which is a bit different, but that was the intention, yeah.
What are some of the differences between your somatic training or your other therapeutic training and this institute?
The somatic training was very focused on, one thing it was focused on was observing people's bodies as kind of ways to tune into what the unconscious is trying to tell you. I don't know if they would talk about it that way in somatic psychology, but you're really paying attention to a person's gestures and to the way they hold themselves, and you're kind of trying to bring their attention to that and then help them dream a little bit about that, what memories does it bring up when you repeat that gesture? So it's one of the ways I think about it is Jungian psychology is I think it attracts intuitive types, and I think somatic psychology attracts people who tend to be more sensate. So I'm very intuitive, and I went in that direction maybe partly as a way to try to balance myself a little bit. And it wasn't a natural fit for me, but I learned a lot about paying attention to what happens in my own body as a way to listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds different, but very compatible. Like you said, it's just a different entryway into the unconscious, maybe?
Yeah, I think it's complementary. Yeah, a different entryway.
The body being the entryway versus a report of a dream.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just thinking about what some other differences might be. But yeah, I think ultimately you're listening or you're watching for what I think somatic psychology is also a little different because you're drawing the client often. I mean, it depends how you work with it, but you're often drawing the client's attention to what's happening in their body, which feels a little directive. And I would say the Jungian psychology is a little bit more. We're sitting back and we're not being very directive. So
And it sounds like the training in terms of your own listening to your body sets you up well for, what would you say, how does that translate, watching countertransference or?
I actually, for my master's thesis, I wrote about this in a way because what I was finding, I was working in a hospital in my practicum, so in my first training period. And at the time, I'd also been doing a lot of authentic movement. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
I've heard of it.
So it comes out of the Jungian world, but it's a type of body movement practice where you spend a couple of hours in a room trying to notice what is coming up through the unconscious, but by way of your body. So I'd been doing that practice for a while. I started my practicum, and then I was realizing that because of the body-oriented practice, I was able to kind of go into reverie. I felt like it was good training for being in a state of reverie with patients, with clients.
Wow.
So
Cool.
that was helpful. Yeah.
My next question was, how has it changed how you are with your clients? That's maybe one change. But you're now 4 years in. Over your time here, can you feel how your work with your clients has evolved?
Yeah, definitely. That I feel like there's this phrase that you hear thrown around about finding your analytic authority or something like that, like finding out how it is you work. I think my work just feels like it's gotten better, like it goes to deeper places. Yeah, and there's a way too that the training, it makes you look at parts of yourself that are hard to look at, and that's had a real impact on my work with patients because, something that I am afraid of in myself or I don't want to know about in myself is going to be hard for me to encounter with patients. And so I've just noticed that as I dig into deeper, older things in myself, it gets easier to sit with more complex stuff with my clients, or more, it gets more alive, I think.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel your clients have experienced the change in you?
I think I'm more grounded, and I think I'm, and I would have to think about maybe where that comes from, but I feel more grounded, and I imagine that's something like my clients pick up on. I think I'm better at pauses, at waiting, not knowing, and probably more accepting. I don't think I was a judgmental therapist before, but I think just
a deeper accepting.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is a question that, if it's too personal, you don't have to answer it. We'll edit it out. But I understand that you are required to continue your own analysis through training. I'm wondering, how has the training affected your experience as a client in analysis?
I think my analyst, it was like she turned the fire way up or something. I felt a little bit like, oh, apparently the standard is higher, and there's more that I need to be doing with myself, and pockets of me that were maybe a little bit like, how to put it, just places where maybe I could tend to want to just turn the other way and not really look at some things in myself. She was like, no, now is the time, So it got more intense. And then I think I realized, I want to step up. I want to do this. I want to understand myself more, and I want to be better at this work. And so hopefully I met the challenge, but I remember noticing that. Yeah.
What would you say is one of the most rewarding parts of training?
I may have to talk to answer that question to find out what I think is the most rewarding part of the training. I have a lot of really good friends here, and I think I'm realizing at this point in my life and in my career that I need to have some kind of community, and I have friends outside of here, but this becomes like a way of life in a way. Or if you're going to commit yourself to this, it's such a big commitment that you have to want to be in the community. And we talk about really intense things with each other, and we get to know each other in a certain deep way. So the community has been really valuable. But there's something more than that. There's some kind of developing my own connection to something deep inside myself, and maybe in the unconscious, or maybe you want to call it the self, a way to go into the images that are important to me and to spend time with my dreams. There's some kind of inner practice that it supports that feels like it goes to a level that it wasn't going to necessarily before I started training.
That feels worth the investment.
Yeah, I think it is worth the investment, but it's been hard at points. It's been like, and there's also a lot of sorting out how you fit into a group.
Yeah.
Group dynamics, those have gotten complicated at times. So it's like all these different levels. It kind of, I don't want to say it beats you up, but it's like a lot.
Yeah, my consulting analyst said that training is psychoactive.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like
the word she used. It's like a psychedelic drug.
Right, like we're tripping together.
Yeah.
Each having our own not hallucination, but vision or something.
Yeah, and then it'll kick up,
right, yeah,
things that might feel almost larger than life.
Right, really big images, really big. Yeah. And then you have to sort of spend some time. There's definitely, I have an experience of I guess that was another descent. I was down in the dirt for a while, or I am right now. And yeah, bring something back up with you, hopefully.
Well, do you have any advice that you would give to people considering analytic training?
Well, I think, if you're considering analytic training, this is maybe kind of obvious, but to work with a Jungian analyst first. I feel like Jung is a little bit more in the collective consciousness these days, and I get calls from clients who are like, they listen to this Jungian life, and so they're looking for a Jungian analyst. Yeah, I think that's the best way to really introduce yourself to what it's like, in a way. Advice beyond that is, I think if some little fire is getting lit around the idea and you follow that, then maybe there's something in it for you. It's a bit of a mysterious experience and hard to describe, right? So I'm losing my kind of train of how I want to say this, but...
What advice would you give for somebody walking into the deepest, darkest mystery?
Yeah. Bring a friend. No, I think I want to say somehow that there's something instinctual that maybe I'm at a loss for words somehow.
Yeah.
I think the conversation we're having is kind of bringing up how intense the decision can be. And then also this sense of, 4 years in, it's like I had no idea what I was getting into in a certain way.
Yeah, that's how I feel about analysis itself. It's like informed consent is a myth. Like you can't really consent because you have no idea what's about to happen.
Yeah, right. If someone tried to lay it out for you, you'd be like, oh, yeah, okay, all right. I think that makes sense. And then you're in there and it's completely different, actually.
Different.
I think maybe we come in looking for help, and that kind of comes in as hopefully there is a solution to this distress I'm in, but the question kind of changes over time. I had an idea about what I needed and had no idea how vast this thing was that I was about to go into.
Vast is a good word.
Yeah.
It's huge.
It's so big. And of course, I did get help with my creativity, but it took time and it didn't come in the form I expected.
Yes.
And
yeah.
So something about this style of therapy, you don't know what you're asking for. If you stay with it, you get something.
And maybe you don't really know what you're asking for in applying for training.
Absolutely, yeah. So maybe it's something about that. It's like expect the unexpected, or, I think there's a way that it gets hard, and it's been helpful to kind of hold that there's probably something archetypal happening here. And, there's others in it with me, or there's people I can pick up a book by, I don't know, Marion Woodman or Marie-Louise von Franz and find something in it that immediately reminds me, it reconnects me to, there's something important that I'm doing here. So whatever you can glean from that. I'm not good at giving advice, evidently.
I think, that's as much advice as anyone could ever. The fact that you are having trouble with it, I think, is indicative of what it's like. So,
yeah, maybe it
Yeah.
is.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. It's fun to talk about it.
Thank you for listening. This has been a production of the Jungian Drift. Though our hosts and guests may be affiliated with the C.G. Jung Institute of San Francisco, please note that the Jungian Drift LLC operates independently from the San Francisco Institute. The purpose of this podcast is educational and not intended to be used as psychotherapeutic advice. For more information about this episode, visit us at thejungiandrift.com.